Week number 6 of the GBU against JV. This is going to be a massive game here. If you guys are excited, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Trying to get to 400 by the end of the year. So let's talk a little bit about this matchup. Dragapult and Lucario Terra, two of probably the best Pokemon in the low tier metagame. Dragapult obviously being one of the best attackers plus momentum gaining Pokemon. It is a very good setup sweeper as well, something that's not used very often. Most of the times it's kind of just a heavy duty boots attacker or a choice user, but those sets can be very powerful. Not against my team though. And then Lucario is a Terra Pokemon. This is an example of one of the problems I think with low tier Terra, and you see it in Gyarados and my team as well, as Lucario, where it's priced at point wise, it's not a 12-point Pokemon with Terra. That is easily the second best Pokemon on my opponent's team and probably worth 16 points or so. That Pokemon is insane, especially with the Terra normal. So that is going to be a huge problem to deal with on my opponent's team. My opponent also has Pheasantipity, and you're going to see in this video, I call it Granbull half the time. There's an inside joke in one of the servers I'm in that this Pokemon is the quote-unquote new Granbull. I challenge you to find me any aspect of this Pokemon that resembles Granbull. You will not. But this Pokemon as a second option is really interesting, and that Toxic Chain to U-turn on a very defensive Pokemon creates a few problematic scenarios for my team. A lot of the Pokemon that I want to bring on it, including Ting-Lu, Iron Hands, like these Pokemon are not going to want to take Toxics, and if they're coming in on multiple U-turns a game, it's just kind of an inevitability. And without Clerics in the meta, without really having Heal Bell, there's not really much of an option, even in the metagame entirely, to move some of that status around. So this is a very problematic Pokemon to manage. Zarude, Sandy Shocks, and Melodic Urshifu Rapid Strike is also kind of annoying, though my team actually deals with Urshifu Rapid Strike pretty effectively. Between Iron Hands, Amoonguss, Houndstone, there's a lot of good things going for me against that Pokemon. Let's take a look at my side. How am I going to interact in this matchup? So the two main threats, as I said, that Dragapult and that Lucario. Ting-Lu is a really good Dragapult answer. It's one of the best ones. Potentially going to force him into a choice set. He definitely can't run setup Dragapult against me. He could run Will-O-Wisp Hex. That's a potential option. Not going to deal a lot to my Ting-Lu, but it's going to, Will-O-Wisp is something that can put a lot of pressure on my team. Iron Hands is something I might want to aggressively bring in on Dragapult depending on the type of set it reveals to be. If I have an Amoonguss set that can be designed to take it on, Will-O-Wisp will be problematic in that as well, especially combined with that Hex. And then that also puts some damage, on the Scream Tail as well, because he likely, I don't want to say he likely can't be choiced because of the Scream Tail. It makes the clicks a little bit more difficult. It's certainly, very high in the possibilities. But Will-O-Wisp, I think, is the set I most likely expect here. The rest of the team, honestly, outside of the Lucario, we have a lot of good ways to manage. Pheasantipity, once again, as I said, that U-turn Toxic Chain is going to be problematic. But Zarude and Lucario are dealt with very well by the combination of Houndstone and Iron Hands. So that's going to be Pokemon that we have pretty decent answers to. Houndstone is going to be a really interesting set this week. Make sure to stay tuned for that one. So that's going to be difficult to manage there. Our main win con this week is going to be Gyarados again. This is not a great baxcalibur matchup, which on the face of it, you would think there's a lot of things you like about baxcalibur here. It can check the Dragapult and the Zarude very well, but it just becomes, easy. It just brings Lucario in every time. Melodic is so free into baxcalibur as well. Just a difficult matchup for this Pokemon to gain momentum. And again, that's been a common theme this entire season. So enough about the matchup. Let's get right into the team. This is our team for the battle. Choice Scarf Houndstone is the big one sticking out in this matchup, but we'll wait to get into that one in a little bit. We have Choice Scarf Greninja here at the top. We got Protean this week just so we can change our type with Ice Beam against the Sandy Shocks. That's going to be pretty important in this matchup. Extra Sensor here going to be a way to help check that Pheasantipity a little bit. It's very likely to be very bulky in this matchup, so hopefully we don't need to take a lot of damage to take advantage of this extra sensory, and we can pick it off at low ranges after it takes a lot of hits coming in on Pokemon potentially like Iron Hands. Swords Dance Iron Hands in this matchup, we don't really need a lot of moves on Iron Hands this week. He's got a lot of difficulty switching into this Pokemon. Swords Dance is going to help us take advantage of certain Pokemon like Zarude. We may be able to Swords Dance in front of that, and once a few threats have gone, be able to break through the entirety of my opponent's team. But this is mainly going to be a way, defensive Pokemon, very defensive set this week, to come in on Zarude, come in on Urshifu, deal some Rocky Helmet damage, and throw some big close combats and Thunder Punches at my opponent's team. Tinglu here is going to be my first response to Dragapult as a switch-in. Very, standard moveset. I think I brought like almost the same moveset on Tinglu every week. It's pretty simple, the things you have to do with that Pokemon. Spikes are going to be good in this matchup as well for something like that Zarude and the Lucario. So, it's going to be difficult for them to come in very often, and that allows Gyarados to potentially threaten Choice Scarf and come in on it in the mid-game. Screamtail here, Encore, is going to help against some random setup sweepers like the Zarude. My opponent can't just bulk up on me every time as it comes in this case. And then Dazzling Gleam Thunderbolts just to provide a little bit of extra damage around the team. Gyarados here, Substitute Dragon Dance. Substitute is going to allow me to set up on Pokemon like the Melodic. My opponent can haze, but Dragon Dance, Terra Blast, Flying +1 into +0 will always kill that Pokemon depending on the set. Obviously we can't account for every situation, but a lot, especially defensive ones, especially, that's going to happen too. So that's going to be a potential setup opportunity for this Pokemon. Obviously, this can come in on Zarude, set up a Dragon Dance, and start really putting pressure on my opponent's team. So this is going to be another win condition in this matchup. Kind of what we thought baxcalibur would be is what Gyarados has ended up becoming in this team. Kind of shows some of the problematic elements of low-tier Terra. But we're going to talk about that in the middle of the week. And then finally, to round it off, Choice Scarf Houndstone, a really good way to check that Terra Normal Lucario in the back. And then a few key moves, Trick and Destiny Bond, just in case things get out of hand, just some extra utility. But we're going to be clicking that Poltergeist and Body Press most of the time in this matchup. So that's the team. Let's get into the battle. All right. It is time for the battle. Zarude, Dragapult, Terra fighting Lucario, Earthworm, Fezandipity, the new Granbull, as it has been called, and Urshifu Rapid Strike. Some things to note here, no Milotic, so the Gyarados is going to have a pretty massive time this game, just kind of cooking, going in on my opponent's team. I'm going to lead with Greninja, I think is probably the safest lead. It leads off well against pretty much everything my opponent can lead with, and all of the leads that could punish it, like potentially a Choice Scarf Urshifu, we do have good counterplay towards. So no Melodic is big, no Sandy Shocks is kind of big as well. So sub DD Gyarados kind of has a field day. I can kind of set up all over this the Orthworm thing. He doesn't really have a lot that he can do to me at all. So that's going to be a setup target for that Pokemon. And we see here immediately a pretty free U-turn if I've ever seen one against this Zarude. Now, it could be some random weakness policy, but I mean, come on. We can't not click the U-turn on turn 1 against a Zarude with our Greninja. That's just too obvious of a play for me to make here. So that's going to be our win con once again. I mean, it feels like that's the win con almost every week is Gyarados of some aspect. And my opponent is going to withdraw. The question is, what are they going to? Urshifu is a pretty obvious switch into this, actually, a lot of the time. He goes into Fezandipity. He goes into the new Granbull. That's what they've been calling this Pokemon, the new Granbull. Fezandipity. This Pokemon is a little bit frustrating to manage. What's nice is I can just kind of go into my Tinglu here. I'm not really concerned about a lot of what this Pokemon can do. Obviously, it's like a fairy type, so like they can do some sort of like Dazzling Gleam nonsense, but that's kind of doing nothing to this Pokemon, honestly, and I don't think my opponent is going to want to eat this Earthquake in this game. So question here is how do I want to play this early on? I do have to keep in mind that I do need this Pokemon around. Where did I put Zarude, Lucario, Dragapult? Oh, I have Lucario down twice. I'm gonna write this one as Granbull. I don't know why I'm all over this meme today. It's pretty esoteric, but let's think about how we want to play this. I kind of like the idea of spikes. We know that this thing is potentially weak to spikes now. I don't think he's going to take an Earthquake. You can go into something like the Orthworm maybe. That's like a pretty interesting option. I could just Ruination also. Punish some switches into Zarude. I kind of actually do like punishing the Urshifu switch here. I'm gonna Ruination. I think I kind of want to punish that switch here. So we're gonna take a U-turn on to the Dome. All right, well that's fine. That's kind of to be expected. Toxic Chain is one of those like really interesting new abilities that has come from the DLC. We used Okidogi in the Scramble run that you would have seen previously, and he does bring in the Zarude. So hopefully we get a nice Ruination off here and get into our Iron Hands. One thing that's also pretty big in this spot, in this matchup, is he does not have a good... his Iron Hand switch-ins are Dragapult. So he really can't switch into that Pokemon, obviously. I'm just going to go into Iron Hands here. He really obviously can't go into Dragapult from Zarude because Ice Punch can be a pretty free mid-ground for me to have on this Pokemon. So he really can't go into that. And Fezandipity is probably the Pokemon he goes into as a response here. He's just going to Sword Stance, okay. What's good about this is I'm very, very defensive on my Iron Hands, so I'm not really concerned with like any hit this Zarude wants to put at me. So like Sword Stance, +2, like I assume there's some sort of like Wood Hammer. I don't know why I'm like blanking out what moves it can get. Like this is kind of like evident that this is not like a great play, and I wouldn't say that's not a great play, but I think it's kind of, I have a pretty likely chance to kill through the Fighting Berry here, so I'm just gonna go for close combat. If he goes into Dragapult, that's perfectly fine. We kind of accept that, and he's gonna miss the Power Whip. Wow, that's a huge miss early on, and we are gonna pick up a close combat. That's actually gonna pick up the kill as well. So I don't think Power Whip is doing almost anything there if I look at the calcs. Power Whip is doing at max 60, yeah, so given my defensive bulk. So like obviously like unfortunate he doesn't get to pick up a lot of damage on this Iron Hands early, but Iron Hands was primarily for this Zarude, so that's kind of the use case that I have for that right now. So what comes back in here now? Dragapult is kind of the obvious thing that can come in here. I'm kind of okay with that. This is one less setup opportunity for my Gyarados though. I really think that Orthworm is going to get set up on at some point. My opponent like really has nothing they can do to substitute. They can have Rock Slide or Rock Blast is a possibility, I guess. It's always possible. You know, you don't want to discount anything early on, but the Zarude looked to have been, you know, one of their endgame win condition options that they had on this team, and that Pokemon is gone already. And in comes Pretty Boy Swag. So question here is, I feel like a fairy move is like pretty obvious in this spot, and I can't really, the Tinglu getting poisoned here early is a little bit frustrating. I can Earthquake this thing. So for like Timid, I'm taking a lot of damage, but the Zarude's already down, so I kind of just want to Earthquake this thing, to be honest, and see if I can put some pressure on something. If he Dazzling Gleams and does like 73 to 86, then I'm perfectly okay with that. My opponent's just going to U-turn nice. So that's going to get some Rocky Helmet chip on this Pokemon. Oh my god, another Toxic Chain. Alright. The new Granbull is going crazy right now. The new Granbull does not miss. And now this Earthquake's pretty tough to switch in on. You can go to Orthworm. But Orthworm, I'm kind of chill if he goes Orthworm here, to be honest with you. If he goes into Orthworm, then he's taking a lot of damage on this he's going to take a lot of damage. I kind of just want to trade this Pokemon off, to be honest, at this point. I could have... this Toxic Chain ability is super frustrating, but if he goes Orthworm, then I think I'm okay with that. I can just... yeah, like it's Earth Eater. I assume that's what he's going to go into. He might try to predict something else. Bosco, let's see. He goes into Urshifu. Wow, that's massive. It's going to take a decent amount of damage there. And I'm pretty sure... So the question here is, once again, do I just like sack this Pokemon off? Like what reason do I have to keep this Pokemon? Like Searching Strikes is not doing a lot from like Adamant Choice Spin on this set, and I can just Thunder Punch here pretty freely at this point. I can kind of protect like a lot of shenanigans from going down. I kind of like that play, actually. I'm just gonna do that. I live basically all the hits here. Iron Hands is really tough for my opponent to deal with at this spot. Like, there's not much that they can really do. I also get to learn if he U-turns, if this is protective pads. I get to preserve HP. Yeah, he's just going to U-turn off on this. And he is going to take some Rocky Helmet damage, so that's good news there as well. And this Thunder Punch is going to be a little bit annoying for them to switch into if they go into like Pheasantipity or something. I think what they're trying to do, Ham Sandwich. Ooh, Dragapult's going to not appreciate this Thunder Punch. It's going to take a little bit. Alright, no Paralyze. Well, I think at this point we're just going straight into the Tinglu here. There's not really much else to do. No reason to complicate this. If he Dragon Dances, then we get a free Whirlwind. If he doesn't and somehow like Mega Crits the Tinglu, we do have Choice Scarf, Greninja in the back, which is going to be pretty useful to check this Pokemon. So I'm pretty free to just go into Tinglu. I want to save this Iron Hands a little bit later. This Iron Hands has been putting him into some difficult positions. He hasn't really made a confident switch around it just yet. Going into that Urshifu and kind of just attacking through, kind of U-turning off of it, kind of showing that a little bit that he's having some difficulty playing around it. And this U-turn, oh my god, is that Choice Banded Dragapult? Is that? Come on, I see some choice. Do I see Choice Banded damage? That looked a lot like Choice Banded damage to me against my Tinglu. Alright, Choice Banded Dragapult. The good thing about this is that still opens up. So that could have Sucker Punch, actually, implications. But this is now in range of the Dark Pulse and Ice Beam from my Greninja. So Greninja is in a good spot here in the mid-game to continue to be a nuisance against that Pokemon. So let's see what he wants to go into here. He doesn't have a lot that's nice to go into. Probably the Urshifu. If I had to guess, it probably is Urshifu. And the fact that he's not punching gloves is also pretty unfortunate for him. Yeah, Choice Banded U-turn is actually pretty good into this spot. In comes this thing. So I think the question here is, what do I go? Do I go into my... Well, I mean, close combat is kind of obvious here. I went into the Iron Hands last time, and he knows it's Rocky Helmet, so he might not expect this Pokemon to be Rocky Helmet as well, and he's probably going to close combat here, I would expect, just to protect against my Rocky Helmet Iron Hands, which is known to be pretty defensive. So he might just close combat into this and meet the second Rocky Helmet user on my team. There we go, perfect. It's going to do 3. Yeah, okay. Goodbye. That did actually nothing. And he's going to meet Rocky Helmet user number 2 on my team, which is a Screamtail. Okay, so now what's the next step here? I could obviously wish into O'Brien here, into my Tinglu. Also, sorry that the Gyarados is not nicknamed. My apologies. I copy and pasted a set out of the builder, and it rather did not have the thing on it. Wish is the most productive thing I think I can do on this turn. If he U-turns, that's fine. I get some more information, and a lot of my Pokemon still switch in very, very well in this spot. So I'm just going to throw a Wish up here. And he's going to withdraw. So that leads me to believe that this is choiced of some variety. Pretty boy swag. Alright, in comes this thing. I kind of expect another U-turn to come out here, honestly. So I can go into Iron Hands. Iron Hands is a pretty aggressive play here against the Pheasantipity. Oh, he could have Moonblast too. Yeah, I don't know why I'm calcing Dazzling Gleam. I can just go straight into Iron Hands here, to be honest. I think like I'm gonna live, take from, I guess it's 84 if I calc 252. I don't die to any one hit of this if he raw Moonblasts, and then I gain a lot of that back. And even if this Iron Hands dies, and that gives me an opportunity to go into my Greninja and set up a Dark Pulse or set up an Ice Beam. So I'm just going to go into this Pokemon, see what my opponent elects to do. I could have gone into the Tinglu, but because I live any one hit, I'd like to get this Wish in. And because it's leftovers, I don't actually think this is going to be like a max situation. Yeah, it's not going to do like nearly as much as my calc. He's telling me for 252 timid, so kind of my expectation that this is more defensive seems to be true. My opponent's probably going to U-turn here. So last time they went Urshifu on the U-turn, my Earthquake is pretty telegraphed. At this point, my Earthquake is pretty telegraphed in the way that I'm bringing it in. So my question here is, if he goes Dragapult and I CC, I'm kind of okay with that, because I can sack off Tinglu to a U-turn, and I know that that Pokemon's going to get picked off by the Greninja in the late game. We're pretty well set up for this Gyarados endgame. We just kind of have to find an opportunity to get a setup in. This Pokemon, this Pheasantipity, might be one of those opportunities. So if I CC here and he goes Orthworm, I kind of think I'm okay with that. Or if he goes Dragapult, is there a % chance that he stays in? I don't think he can go Urshifu again. I'm just going to close combat. I kind of think he's going to switch out, yeah. He's going to U-turn in. So he's going to have to pick something here. If he goes Dragapult, that's a ballsy play. That is a ballsy play, I would say, because it's pretty difficult for me to click Coast Combat in this spot. And Orthworm, like, is pretty free against Earthquake. Earthquake is pretty free. He's just going to sack this off. Wow. Okay, well, that is pretty huge for me. Iron Hands is going to pick up a kill on the Urshifu, which is, I mean, it kind of makes sense. This Urshifu is going to have a lot of difficulty making progress in this game, and Iron Hand's picking up 2 big kills, just proving to why it is one of the best Pokemon in this format. Now the real question is what is he going to? Pretty Boy Swag. Okay, so the Moonblast is like 1,000,000% in range here. The question is Gyarados. I think there's like a decent chance that I'm faster, and I could probably play to like a Choice Scarf. I have to do more damage, I think, to this. Iron Hands. Most of the rolls of this actually kill, so I probably do have to sack this now. This Pokemon does get checked by the Greninja now at this point, so I do get to actually spam Dark Pulse against his team, which is pretty fire if he lets me sack this. So I'm just going to Earthquake and sack this Pokemon off, see if he wants to U-turn. He's just going to Moonblast. Okay, perfect. So we're okay with this. Iron Hands got to trade for a lot of great damage across the board in this matchup. So I can bring in an extra sensory. I can extra sensory this Pokemon, actually, which is like kind of funny. Lose this type, and then my opponent's not really doing much damage to me. Yeah, my opponent's not doing a lot of damage to me if I bring this in and Choice Scarf Extra Sensory, and Extra Sensory is doing a lot of damage against my opponent's team. So I'm just going to bring this in, and if my opponent deals a little bit of damage to me, then I'm perfectly okay with that. So let's just go in, click the Psychic move. I don't know why I thought that this Pokemon it was a Psychic type for whatever reason, but I'm just going to click Extra Sensory. Let's get that damage off. Maybe get a little bit of a flinch would be nice. If I'm bringing this in, what does he think is happening here? What does my opponent think is happening in this spot? It's worth exploring. They might think I'm throwing? Yeah, okay, so they're just going to stay in, which is kind of like the perfect case scenario here, actually. Because that's going to do like 1,000,000 damage, and they're it's going to do crit. So they might U-turn off here, and they're going to roost to figure that out. And this U-turn is going to hurt, but that's going to put me into a spot that I'm okay with, I think. Like, I'm okay. Oh, I got to put this as Psychic type. Oh, calcing this game is the worst. Actually, like, the worst part of playing this game. So I can just go for another Extra Sensory. They're kind of playing with fire here a little bit. And once again, I'm okay just to take this damage. So I'm just going to Extra Sensory. Play for a second opportunity for a flinch here, of course. And if my opponent wants to get really aggressive, I still have a lot of good options to check my opponent's team. Come on, give me some big damage here. A little flinch. Yeah, alright, take that. We're going to take about 40% here. Nice. It's still going to keep us... I mean, again, this Toxic Chain is getting pretty annoying. But now this Pokemon gets set up on by the Gyarados, which is actually really, really massive. So let's see what my opponent wants to go into here. I hope it's Orthworm. To be honest, if it's Orthworm, then I'm kind of cooking here. A little bit, actually. Dragapult, interesting. Dragapult. So I do obviously have to switch. This Choice Banded U-turn is coming, and it's coming in hot. I think I'm just going to sack this Pokemon off. I don't really have a reason to make any other play here at this point. I want to preserve this Pokemon. My opponent can go into the Granbull. The Granbull is obviously a possibility here to go into after, and if they just like straight up U-turn off of this, then I do get the switch initiative. So Dragapult. So now I do get the switch initiative here. I don't think they can bring in Pheasantipede, the dog. Are they bringing in Lucario here? Alright, they're bringing in Lucario. I'm bringing my Houndstone. Houndstone's gonna fire in this spot, actually. I mean, this is what the Houndstone's for, so... I mean, we'll bring it in. It prevents the setup. I mean, they can certainly switch out if they want to. I'm gonna have to start making a lot of sacks to this. I need to find this opportunity for Gyarados to come in here. I really need to find an opportunity for this Gyarados to come in. So the fact that it's not Terra Normal is like a little bit unfortunate, actually. I mean, this Body Press is still gonna do massive damage to this Pokemon. And I think that they could go into the Granbull, the Pheasantipede. Here is like certainly a possibility, but I'm just going to Body Press. My opponent's probably going to go to Terra Fighting and try to set up potentially in the face of this. If they go Dragapult, they go Dragapult. That is what it is, and they're going to stay in Terra. Nice. Okay. Perfect. So we're getting a nice Choice Scarf Body Press up on this Pokemon. Is going to do... And they're going to Flash Cannon. They're special. Interesting. And they're Life Orb. Special Life Orb. Wow. Interesting. Okay, so they're in range then of the second Body Press here. Okay, so do they go into Dragapult here? They probably have to, right? They probably double here. Like, they want to save this Pokemon, certainly, right? Like, they have to, right? Like, that has to be the play. Like, it's certainly, like, to me, that is, like, the play that you make in this spot. It's a really interesting decision point, because I can double here. I could sack this Pokemon. Maybe I do sack this Pokemon. Once again, I do want to set up an opportunity to kill with the, like, the Gyarados endgame is pretty open and free at this point. I'm just going to Body Press. If they go Dragapult, they go Dragapult. That's a good play. Damn. Oh, they could be on the new Granbull as well. Ham sandwich. Yeah, oh, if I double into... Man, if I double there, that would have been huge. I think I should have made that play. That would have put me in a really, really good spot in this game, because I would have got to get a free Dark Pulse off, and there's not really much that they could do about that. That could potentially be game winning. I could just sack this off too. To be honest, at this point, I'm just gonna Body Press again. My opponent's probably just gonna Phantom Force, yeah. So that opens up like the same. That opens up the same situation here, where with my, I do get to learn a little bit about this. I'm pretty sure I confirm the set here. Not particularly, but the fact that it's choice now, I do get to bring in my Greninja for free and click Dark Pulse here. I do now get to Dark Pulse for free against my opponent's team and deal a lot of damage somewhere. I could Ice Beam. Is Ice Beam actually the better play? Because if he goes Lucario, I want to protect against the Lucario, obviously. If he goes Granbull, I keep calling it Granbull. If he goes Pheasantipede, that's still fine. If he goes Orthworm, I kind of want to sack this to set up the Gyarados sweep. So I kind of just want to Ice Beam here to protect against the Lucario switch in. I'm just going to Ice Beam. Let's protect against that Lucario switch in. My opponent is going to switch out. Let's see what they go into. Pretty Boy Swag. Okay, they go into this. Nice. So I'm going to be able to pick this Pokemon off here. Oh my god, that didn't die? Wow. Maybe I should have calced that. I think this Pokemon still has like a pretty free chance of living Sucker, which I'm okay with. Well, I gotta protect against Roost. I can't let my opponent Roost up on me. That's for sure. There's no way that I can allow that to happen. Well, this Earthworm is still set up fodder. We still have to play to that end game, I think. And if my opponent gets really aggressive and switches, man, if I made that play with Dragapult, that would have been very far. Like switch, really? Okay, Earthworm has to be right, surely. Mother Orth, yeah, okay. Earthworm is in. So what I kind of like about okay, so this is leftovers. I think what I'm gonna do here is I want to preserve this to check to have as a check. And I can go hard this, which seems odd at first glance, but I can encore into my Gyarados and then set up a DD, which I kind of want to do. And if my opponent doubles into Dragapult, then like Phantom Force is not killing here if they double. And then I get to hit it with the Dazzling Gleam, which is really, really nice. And then I get to, if they lock into Phantom Force, I Dragon Dance up. They withdraw. Wow. Interesting. Interesting. They go into this. Okay, so this is actually really, really massive for me. And that I should outspeed most sets here. They're pretty bulky, so I would assume my Thunderbolt, it's not always killing here. It might kill. It could be very, very bulky. I have to go for it, I think, surely, right? I mean, I'm surely trying for it here. Any paralyzers? Roost. Okay, I can actually encore this in the Roost. Okay, I think I have the game now. Perfect. So if I now encore this Pokemon, I don't think I have the game yet. I think I have to double somewhere else first. My opponent has to protect here against the Gyarados, I think. I think my opponent has to protect against Gyarados here. I'm just going to go into it, though. I don't really have much of another play. If my opponent just stays in with this, then we win. We probably have a pretty easy chance of winning the game from this point. If they go into Earthworm, then I'm really confident as well. Man, I kind of really wish I... Alright, so we were obviously faster anyway. And my opponent withdraws. Okay, that is to be expected. And they go into this. Okay. So they Dragon Darts. If I DD up... They can't Dragon Darts though, can they? This has to be Jolly Choice Band. Adamant Choice Band can kill from this spot. If they Phantom Force... This is a really tough spot. I kind of just want to go into... I kind of want to Dragon Dance. I'm going to Dragon Dance. I think this might be a throw. Okay, they Dragon Darts. Really interesting. Okay. And this should outspeed basically all sets here that my opponent could potentially bring. And so we're just going to Terra Fly and Terra Blast and deal a million damage to something. My opponent's going to switch, really. Oh, they're probably going to go the Orthworm. Yeah, fuck. This combination might actually have a decent chance of killing this, depending on their set. Oh, I should have waterfalled there, probably. This is just such a tough spot. I probably went into this... I probably could have just gone to Screen Tail and been fine. Well, I can play for some flinches, I guess, and set up kind of a scenario where I flinch this Pokemon to death. I don't really have much of another option at this point. Oh my god, this crit. If I crit flinch, then I'm in... Yeah, my opponent has Rock Blast. Ah. Yeah, I think I played this one pretty poorly in the end there. I think this could have been an easier game than I kind of ended up being. If I make the double on the Dragapult, then I think I'm in a really good spot. But now the what's it called? The Pheasantipity kind of has a really good time just answering the rest of my team. Yeah, if I make the double, if I still have like the Houndstone here, Houndstone is kind of frustrating for my opponent to manage. I think I'm just going to go into this Pokemon here. Surf is kind of like the obvious play. Is there a reason to just U-turn off of this thing? Like if I U-turn, what happens here? Extrasensory is killing. I'm just gonna Extrasensory actually. I kind of have to hope that this kills from this spot. It just doesn't kill. I missed two like very, very close rolls here in a row, unfortunately. That's just going to prevent me from winning, and I think that's going to make it really difficult for us to make playoffs at this point. I think it's going to be really hard for us to actually make a comeback in this season under these circumstances, unfortunately. It is what it is, though. We do pick up the kill here. I probably could have played that differently. The fact that he had Rock Blast was obviously really crucial in that spot. If I get the flinch, then, yeah, Terra Lucario comes in and probably just picks me off anyway. And now I can't really beat this Gramble, to be honest. Well, I could PP stall it if he doesn't have Poison move, so... he probably just goes into his Dragapult to do max damage with Phantom Force. I can set up a Wish. I mean, I can maybe pick up something else, but I don't think I can beat the Pheasantipity. Yeah, if I Waterfalled on that turn that he went to Orthworm, then I think I might have had a chance there, and that might have been potentially not a throw, but that could have been a potential winning play. But it is what it is. Yeah, he's just going to come out into this, which is perfectly fine. I'm just going to Thunderbolt here, see if I can't do something insane to this. But I mean, I'm not doing any damage yet. That's just going to be the game. Good game here to Jay. I think he played this one very well. This was a really, really difficult matchup. I think I had a good opening sequence of turns to really put this game in my advantage, but I think I make some critical errors in the mid game, which I kind of felt like I've done with this team a few times. Just make, oh, I get the Paralyze. That's funny. All right, well, I guess we'll play this game out just a little bit longer for a little bit of fun. I think, yeah, playing around the Dragapult, if I doubled with the Greninja on that first turn, then I get a really, really good turn there to pressure my opponent's team, which I just didn't make the opportunity to take advantage of. The Toxic Chains were also like very good. He got every single one of them, which I'm not going to complain about, but certainly, you know, gave him, you know, a little bit better of a chance to win there as well. But we just didn't take advantage of Iron Hands, and he saved his Orthworm perfectly. Could have Waterfalled. He probably has priority on Lucario anyway, but it is, yeah, and the Vacuum Wave probably is what he has on that. So it is what it is. A good game to Jay. That's going to make it tough for us to make playoffs. Taking a 3-0 loss here, we're going to have to just like really perform well in the last two games to make playoffs. So probably like first Wi-Fi League I've done in a while where I missed playoffs, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Next week we play against Q, the Costa Rican, and the Chicago Dragapults. I think that is going to be a good matchup. He's been doing very, very well, as Jay has been doing well this season also. So that is going to be one. I mean, we have 2 must-win games, and if we win both of them, we have a chance. But at this point with my differential, it's going to have to be, we're going to have to win big in those games. So I'll see you guys in the next video, and as always, have a wonderful day.